Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Marina O'Connor. I'm the licensing chief for the Medical Board of California. And just so everyone knows, this webinar is being recorded and we will make the recording available on the board's website. I'm going to go over the licensing requirements that became effective January 1, 2022 as a result of Senate Bill 806. And as Sean stated, I'll try to address as many of the questions we received in advance as well. Next slide, please. The postgraduate training license is required for anyone that enrolls in an ACGME accredited postgraduate training program in California. This is not a new requirement as it's been in effect since January 1, 2020. To be eligible for a PTL, the applicant must be enrolled in an ACGME accredited training program in California and have received all of their medical education and graduated from a medical school recognized by the board. International medical school graduates must be certified by the Educational Commission for Foreign Medical Graduates, or Ecfmg. Next slide, please. You must obtain a PTL within 180 days of enrollment in an ACGME accredited program. You do not need to wait until the end of the 180 days to obtain a PTL. The board recommends applying for a PTL as soon as you match into a program, even if you are not fully enrolled yet. Once you are enrolled, you can then submit the required enrollment form, which I will cover later in the presentation. The law authorizes the board to issue PTLs up to 15 months for U.S. or Canadian medical school graduates and 27 months for international medical school graduates. If an applicant has not yet completed any board-approved training, the board will issue the PTL for the full 15 or 27 months, even if the applicant is beginning an internship or preliminary year. Prior to January 1, 2022, a PTL could be issued up to 39 months. If the PTL was issued prior to January 1, 2022, the expiration date will not change as a result of SB 806. So the expiration date you got for your PTL prior to Jan 1, 2022, that will remain the same. A PTL holder should obtain a physician's and surgeon's license before their PTL expires. If a physician's and surgeon's license is not obtained by the time the PTL expires, the licensee must cease all clinical practice in California. Next slide, please. The applicant must submit the postgraduate training license application, referred to as the PTL-1 through PTL-4. The application may be submitted online through the Breeze system, and all documents required to be submitted by the applicant may be attached in Breeze. Starting January 1st, the board no longer requires the application form to be notarized. So this was a new change implemented by the board. It wasn't a direct result of SB 806. This was just a board change. Effective January 1, 2022, the application fee increased from $442 to $625. The total application fee is $674 and includes the required $49 fingerprint fee. The applicant must submit fingerprints. If they are located in California, they can visit any live scan facility to be fingerprinted and bring a completed live scan form available on the board's website to the facility. If they are located outside of California, they may submit fingerprint hard cards, which the board will provide to the applicant, but this process can take up to several months compared to the live scan process that usually only takes a few days. The applicant must also submit official examination scores. If the applicant took the USMLE, they must request the Federation of State Medical Boards to provide the board their score report. International medical school graduates must submit an Ecfmg certification status report. Next slide, please. The applicant must also provide a timeline of activities without any gaps in the timeline, an explanation for application question form if they provided a positive answer to any of the questions on the application, and a license verification if they hold a license in another state. The board now requires verification of temporary, provisional, and training licenses as well. The TOA and EXP forms may be uploaded to Breeze if submitting an online application, but the license verification must be submitted to the board directly from the licensing entity. And for anyone applying online, please note that once you submit the application online, you cannot go back and attach documents. So if you needed to submit additional documentation and you didn't attach them in Breeze, you would need to mail those to the board. There are some documents that we may possibly accept, applicant documents that we may possibly accept via email, but you would need to work with your assigned reviewer, whoever's reviewing your application, to determine if you can submit them via email or if you have to mail them in. Next slide, please. Some application forms may not be submitted by the applicant, but rather must be submitted directly from the primary source. The medical school must provide a certificate of medical education, an official medical school transcript, and a certified copy of the medical school diploma. For any previously completed training, the postgraduate training program must submit a certificate of completion of postgraduate training form, referred to as the PTA-PTB. This form must be submitted for all ACGME, RCPSC, CFPC accredited training, whether credit was granted for the training or not. The currently enrolled program must submit the enrollment form, referred to as Form EF. If the applicant is beginning or has recently begun an internship or preliminary year and is transferring to a different program for their second year, the board will need a new enrollment form from the second year program, which can be submitted to the board at any time, even with the initial PTL application. All of these forms may be submitted electronically through the board's Docs portal. This is a much quicker and safer way for the school and training program to provide these forms to the board. If they are submitted through Docs, they do not require a seal or notarization. Medical schools and postgraduate training programs may register for the Docs portal by completing the registration form available on the board's website. Once registered, the medical school or program may electronically upload their required documents for a current license applicant. The Docs portal only accepts documents for individuals with an open application. So if the resident has not applied yet, if they have not submitted an application and we don't have an open application, then the school or the program will not be able to upload those documents through Docs. Next slide, please.
Maria, if I could just interject for a quick second.
Yes, absolutely.
We have several people, submitting questions. I think some of them might be covered throughout the presentation, so we're going to go ahead and save all the questions for the Q&A session here at the end. You're more than free to, type in questions into that Q&A box, and we will address them all when we get to the Q&A section. But I just want to let people know the reason I'm not calling on them yet is we will take all the questions at the end. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The law authorizes the board to extend a PTL beyond 15 or 27 months only to allow the resident to obtain the training needed to qualify for a physician's and surgeon's license. For example, if a resident was issued a PTL for 15 months and took a 4-month leave of absence during their first year of training and had to make up this time, then the board could extend the PTL beyond 15 months to allow the resident to obtain credit for 12 months of training. A PTL may not be extended beyond 15 or 27 months for any other reason. If the training needed to be extended beyond the dates identified on the enrollment form, then the program would be responsible for submitting the Program Status Update Change Form, or PSU form, which I will go over on the next slide. Next slide, please. The PSU form must be submitted by a postgraduate training program within 30 days of any of the following actions. A PTL holder's postgraduate training period is extended, a PTL holder is terminated from the program, a PTL holder resigns, dies, or leaves the program, or a PTL holder completes a 1-year contract approved by the program. If a PTL holder transfers programs before the program end date identified on the original enrollment form, The old program must submit the PSU form, and the new program must submit an EF form. EF, again, is the enrollment form. This allows the board to update the program information on the license, which displays on the license lookup and on the PTL wallet license. This is the program name and then the program training dates. That's what I'm referring to. That's what shows on the wallet license and on the public license lookup. Next slide, please. A PTL holder may apply for a physician's and surgeon's license by submitting a transition application, which may be submitted online through the BREEZE system or by mail. Effective January 1, 2022, successful completion of 12 months of postgraduate training for U.S. or Canadian medical school graduates, or 24 months of postgraduate training for international medical school graduates is required to obtain a physician's and surgeon's license. A PTL holder does not have to wait to complete 12 or 24 months of training to submit the transition application. The board will accept the PTA-PTB form up to 30 days prior to completion of training. The transition application may be submitted up to 6 months prior to qualifying for licensure, but the license will not be issued until all requirements are met. This is to allow sufficient time for processing and to make sure the PTL holder obtains the physician-surgeon's license as soon as they qualify, or ideally before their PTL expires. Next slide, please. The transition application, or TF1 through TF3, also no longer requires notarization and may be submitted online through the BREEZE system. The applicant does not have to pay another application fee, but they must pay half of the initial license fee of $456.50 if they provide proof of current enrollment in a board-approved postgraduate training program by submitting the current postgraduate training enrollment form, or Form CTV. Without Form CTV, the applicant must pay the full initial license fee of $888, which increased from $808 effective January 1st. These initial license fees include a mandatory $25 Stephen M. Thompson Physician Corps Loan Repayment Program fee. The applicant must request the FSMB to provide an exam score report to the board that shows a passing score on Step 3 of the USMLE, and request their program to submit the final PTA-PTB that verifies completion of the training required to obtain a physician's and surgeon's license. To continue practicing in California, the physician's and surgeon's license must be issued prior to expiration of the PTL, as practice is not permitted with an expired PTL. The board recommends applying for a physician-surgeon's license at least several months before expiration of the PTL to allow enough time for processing and remediating any deficiencies. Next slide, please. Physicians and surgeons license applicants that do not hold a PTL and completed their training in another state must submit the application for a physician's and surgeon's license, either online through the BREEZE system or by mail. They must submit the required application form, referred to as the Form L1A through L1E, an application fee, which includes the fingerprint fee, either the reduced or full initial license fee, which includes the $25 Stephen M. Thompson fee, fingerprints, examination scores, Ecfmg certification status report if they are an international medical school graduate, and any other applicable forms. If they are transferring from out of state to an ACGME accredited training program in California, they must obtain a physician's and surgeon's license within 90 days of enrollment. To allow sufficient time for processing, the board recommends they submit the application up to 6 months prior to when they will need a license. Next slide, please. The applicant must request the medical school and postgraduate training programs to submit all of the required forms: the MED, official transcripts, certified copy of the diploma, the PTA-PTB, and the CTV. All of these documents may be submitted through the board's docs portal. I will now go over a few common questions the board receives about the application process and licensing requirements. I previously spoke about submitting an application early. Once an application is received with the required fees, so that's the form, the application form, and the fees, all required fees, the board may take up to 60 days to review the application, but this timeline depends on many factors, including application volume. Currently, the board is reviewing applications within 30 days of receipt, but this may increase as application volume increases. The board's laws regarding moonlighting have not changed since January 1, 2020. A PTL holder may practice only in connection with their duties as an intern or resident physician in a board-approved program, including its affiliated sites, or under those conditions as are approved in writing and maintained in the licensee's file by the director of the program. Board statutes do not prohibit moonlighting. The Department of Healthcare Services regulates billing for Medi-Cal services, and any billing questions would need to be directed to that agency. Licensed applicants may check the status of their application anytime in the BREEZE system. Once the application is reviewed, the applicant will receive a deficiency letter, and BREEZE will also display a list of any remaining deficiencies. Next slide, please. Effective January 1, 2022, a physician and surgeon licensee must provide proof of completion of 36 months of board-approved postgraduate training, including 24 continuous months in the same program, in order to renew their license for the first time. Documentation of completion of the required training may be submitted to the board on the PTA-PTB form. Currently, the form must be mailed to the board for physician and surgeon licensees, as the board's docs portal only accepts documents for current license applicants. So once the physician surgeon's license is issued, then any PTA-PTB form submitted after that must be mailed. A licensee must provide this documentation to the board no later than 60 days after their initial license expiration date. If documentation is not received and accepted by the board within this timeframe, the license status will change to delinquent and practice will not be permitted. The board recommends that licensees request this documentation from their program as soon as it is completed. Once the board verifies completion of 36 months of board-approved postgraduate training, including 24 months in the same program, the licensee never has to submit the documentation again as part of the renewal process. This is only required for the licensee's initial renewal. So it's once you submit it and once you renew your license the first time, you don't have to submit the documentation again. The board will notify the licensee once this documentation has been accepted. Next slide, please. This concludes my presentation. Licensing Analyst and Outreach Coordinator Rhonda Baldo will be joining me to answer your questions. But before we take questions from participants, I'd like to ask individuals to not discuss pending licensing applications or pending disciplinary actions that may come before the board for a decision. Such discussions are considered ex parte communications, as they could provide information to the board members that is outside of the record, in violation of the Administrative Procedure Act. Therefore, such discussions could create a conflict and lead to a board decision being challenged in Superior Court. I'd like to remind participants that this webinar is being recorded and will be posted on the board's website. We cannot answer questions about confidential information provided in a specific application or provide updates on the status of a specific application. While we will do our best to answer all of your questions, some specific scenarios may depend on multiple factors, and you may need to email the board separately so the board can accurately address your issue. We will conclude the Q&A session at 3 p.m., and any questions we do not get to can be emailed to the board at the email address on your screen at licensing.questions@mbc.ca.gov. We will also hold another live webinar in the near future, so there will be another opportunity to ask questions in this forum. Thank you to everyone who provided questions in advance. I realize we may not have answered all of your questions in the presentation, but we tried to address the most common questions we've received. I'll now turn it back over to Sean to go over the Q&A format again.
Thank you, Marina. So I see several people have already found the Q&A box in the hand raising feature. And again, the call-in users, if you'd like to raise your hand from a call-in only line, if you're only on a phone, you can press *3 to go ahead and raise your hand. And we'll be calling you guys in the order that the questions come in. So received several written questions during your presentation, Marina. So I'm going to go ahead and start from the top here, and I'll try to look for anything that's duplicative. But the first question that came in was, so the recommendation then is to apply for a full license when going for a 3-year fellowship?
So it depends on how much training has been completed. So if you've already completed the 12 or 24 months, whichever was required, then yes, you should be applying for a physician and surgeon's license.
Great. And the timing of this is probably what's critical too, but there was a question that asking, so no need for notarization. I just want to be clear, maybe you could summarize the notarization parts again in terms of the forms that the programs and the schools submit versus the actual forms the applicant submits?
Yes. So there are the forms that the applicant must fill out and submit to the board. And previously, the last page of the application form that the applicant fills out required a notarization. That has been removed from the application, which we just recently updated these applications. I believe is just as recent as January 1st. So you'll no longer see that notarization section on the applicant form. You will still see it on the program form, the PTA PTB. So again, this is just for the application forms where the notary is not required. Now, if the program submits the PTA PTB through docs, it does not need to be notarized. But if the program is going to submit it by mail, it has to be notarized. I believe that should, cover any questions about the notarization. There might be some folks who applied prior to Jan 1, and when they submitted it, they may have had a deficiency with the notary section, and it was probably listed on your deficiency letter. But now that we are no longer requiring the notary section, we're not. It's okay if we had issues with that old notary section. We're not going to require you to fix whatever issue was identified on that notary section if you have a pending application.
Great. Okay. Next question here written was, if applicants are required to complete live scan fingerprints for entry into their residency program, can they use these fingerprints for their PTL application?
Unfortunately, no. Since we're a separate entity, fingerprints are only released to the entity that you're authorizing them to be released to. So that's why we have our own live scan form. There's codes on there that says these fingerprints go to this entity. So there's no sharing of fingerprint results across agencies. So unfortunately, you have to still be fingerprinted with the board when you apply for your PTL.
Next question was, can the PTA PTB form be submitted within 30 days of anticipated end date if completing 12 months or 36 months for licensure eligibility?
So yeah, so if you are, let's say you're you're coming up on your 12th month of your approved board training, then you can go ahead and submit that PTA PTB on in the 11th month. Once you've completed 11 months and you're getting ready, you're applying for your physician surgeon's license, you just have 1 month left to go, you can go ahead and submit your PTA PTB in that 12th month once you've completed the 11 months. Similarly, for if you're in the, if you have to complete 24 months, you could, after completion of 23 months, you can go ahead and submit your PTA PTB after completion of 23 months.
And a question regarding IMGs and confusion about how if the medical school, foreign medical school is sending the diploma, but it needs to be translated. How do they handle that?
Well, I depend, if you go through, I might need Rhonda to clarify here, but I believe if you go through Ecfmg, I thought they did provide translation services, but I could be wrong there. I know, Rhonda, do you have any info on the translation services?
So if when the documents come from the medical school must either provide the original certified copy of the diploma with the translation. If they can't do that, then the applicant would be required to send their diploma to a translation service, and the translation service would be required to submit the translation of the diploma or transcripts, whatever it may be, with a copy of the document they translated. And the translation service would have to submit that directly to the board.
Great, thank you, Rhonda. We've got a hand up here. I believe the name is Cameron, or if hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Cameron, your line's open. I see you got it open. Can you go ahead and ask your question?
Oh, do you hear me?
We do.
Okay, I have two questions actually. First, I'm a foreign grad, but I have a FSMB account. So if I go and apply through the FSMB, they're gonna submit everything on my behalf to the Medical Board of California, the scores, and because they have received my medical school diploma and verification, everything from my medical school, do I still need to do anything, or that FSMB would be enough?
You would still need to submit your application. So if, I don't know if FSMB would be submitting the actual application form for you, because it does if you're submitting it by mail, you have to sign the form, and then if you're doing it online, it's you're registering through the Breeze system, and going through the application online, and confirm that there's an attestation you agree to, and you click submit. So you still have to submit the actual application form. Rhonda, am I missing anything else there that would be required?
So you're correct that they would still have to submit the application directly to us. Once we receive the FSMB packet, we'll go through it and determine and use any document that meets current board requirements.
Okay, but I wouldn't need anything from medical school, foreign medical school, correct?
It really just depends on how the documents are stamped. So if the document is, medical school's document says submitted by applicant, then we would need your medical school to submit something directly to us. So
Okay.
we would have to go through that packet.
Okay.
After we review your application, then we'll tell you exactly what's needed to continue in the licensing process.
Okay. And my second question is, I had 1 year of internship before starting my 3 years of residency here. Do I need two forms, PTA, PTB, one from that year of internship and one from my current residency program?
If your internship was from a board approved training program, then yes, we would need them to complete a PTA, PTB as well.
Okay, the problem is that program no longer exists, so I don't know how I would be able to get that. The whole program was shut down. It was in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's probably something you can. Oh, sorry, Rhonda. Go ahead.
Sometimes you could contact FSMB and they may have record that they could send to us. Or you could just work with your licensing analyst to see what we can do to help you out.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you for your question and asking it verbally there. Next up, we have looks like Annie Lee. Annie Lee should be getting a prompt on your end to go ahead and open your line. There you go. Please go ahead with your question.
Questions in the chat, but I think it's a little bit easier for me to ask it in particular. I have two specific questions. So the first one is in regards to the question number 9 for research and on the PTB. So it's a requirement for all of the residents to do like a QI project and a research project. So how do we go about to answer that question? Because it's asking us for additional forms to be filled out. It was under the impression that it's only if you take time off of your residency for research that you would say yes, but otherwise we would put no.
All right, I'm just pulling up the form so I can look at the question.
No problem. PTB, and it's number 9.
Oh, okay, about research. So, sorry, can you repeat the scenario you were talking about?
Sure. So we had a question about it because we didn't know how to answer it because it's kind of vague of a question. It says, like, have we done research? So we're all kind of required to do it to graduate. I'm a current 3rd year in family medicine. And we weren't sure if we're supposed to put yes, because we are all doing research, or is it simply yes, actually have time out of our training dedicated to like a sabbatical or research months that don't count towards our clinical 12 months or 24 months.
Yeah, I think if you did any research at all, I would answer yes, because if you click on that form RES1, RES2, which are new forms, we just put out those forms starting Jan 1 with all these form changes. There's a series of questions on the RES1, RES2 forms that will break it gets into more detail, so we can see based on, you know, what the research was it, you know, were you getting credit for it, was it part of the ACGME program, etc. That information is going to be helpful to us. So I would say yes, just err on the side of answering yes if you did any research.
Okay, because I think that one actually needs to have been notarized as well. I'm not sure, but I have to double check again. My analyst said no, so I'm a little. We can definitely just all resubmit it again for our cohort, but we just wanted clarification on that because we're not taking
Sure.
time off, but all the residents, at least medicine, are going to have to do quality improvement project or a case report, etc., scholarly activity to be able to graduate per ACGME.
Yeah, and so that so you're right, it does need to be notarized. Now, if the program's submitting these through docs, they don't have to be notarized, but if they're mailing them in, yes. So that when you said you know, you're not taking time off, totally understandable. And when you complete that RES1, you know, 1 and 2, that should be very clear that yes, we were still enrolled. This was part of our program. That's what we're looking for. The
Okay.
main question on that form is, did you maintain enrollment? You know, did you do any clinical training? Did you get credit for the clinical training? So, you know, it is a new form, but it is important information we have because unfortunately right now, when we find out about it, it requires a lot of back and forth between us and the applicant and sometimes with the program, and we're trying to avoid that. And we think by collecting this information up front, it'll avoid the back and forth. We'll get the information we need to move forward.
Sure, no problem. We just wanted to make sure we're doing our part so that it doesn't have to go back and forth.
And it's a new form, so I would say don't like worry too much if you realize, oh, I should have answered yes and I answered, you know, no. You know, you can always go back and fill out the RES 1 and 2 and submit it and just, you know, say, hey, I got further clarification. I believe I need to submit this. It's a new form, so we understand there's going to be a lot of questions on, you know, whether it needs to be submitted or not.
No problem. And then, sorry, I have one more question that I put in the chat, but just to clarify for the notarization forms, I believe you had just said that, you know, we don't have to do the TF form 4 anymore, but I just wanted to get clarification. So if we did do our online application through Breeze, on the TF form 3, which is just, there's a declaration portion where we sign it, and then there's a portion where we fix a 2x2 picture. Form 4 is just a duplicate, but it asks for also a notarization. So I'm assuming we ignore that. But do we still have to turn in Form 3 with our picture to
if you applied online? Yeah. So for now, yes, still turn in what's now the TF3 because it has that, you know, you have to sign that attestation and attach the photo. I don't want to speak too soon. We're kind of looking into that process to see if we need to continue requiring online applicants to send us that document. So I'd say to be on the safe side for now, definitely still, if you apply online, still send in that signature page. I'll call it the signature page since there's no notary on it anymore. And you can attach your photo to it. And you know, that there's questions. So if there's questions on that form that you probably already answered in your online app, because basically the TF4 went away because we took away that notary section. So everything kind of got shifted on the pages. So I'm not looking, sorry, at the TF4, I'm sorry,
That's
TF3
okay.
right now. But it might be, I think it's that one and the L1E as well, where there might be questions on there that you already answered in the online app. So you don't need to re-answer those questions. The most important thing is the signature and the picture.
Okay, perfect. And the only things that you need from our program director and coordinator, if we already all have the PTL and we're in our 3rd year training, is just to verify the PTB and the CTV for notarization if we don't have our docs portal set up yet.
Right, for your physician surgeon license. Yeah, and then
Okay.
if you've already submitted your score report that shows passing on USMLE Step 3, then we already have it. If you haven't, we would need that as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Those were all my questions.
Sure.
Okay, thank you for your questions. Go back to a few of the written ones here. How soon can applicants submit the transitional application?
So once if you have a PTL, you're a PTL holder, and you're getting ready to apply for your physician surgeon license, you should be fairly close to completing the required training. So if you need 12 months of training, you can technically apply after 6 months before you complete 12 months of training. So after 6 months of training, you can technically apply for your physician surgeon's license. We're gonna have to hold the application until you complete all your training. We can't issue the license until the training's completed and we receive, the required documents, but you can go ahead and submit it that far in advance, 6 months prior to when you'll have the required training. So if you were required to complete 24 months, you could submit it, 6 months in advance. And again, we'll work through all the deficiencies, and you'll get the deficiency letter saying we need the PTA PTB, which you can clearly communicate to your assigned analyst saying, hey, I'm due to complete on this date. I'll submit it, as soon as I can, which is up to 30 days prior to completion of the training. So really 6 months in advance of when you qualify for licensure. I wouldn't do it any earlier than that. But it's just to be on the safe side to allow plenty of time for processing. Because there could be other deficiencies that you want to start working, we want to start working on right away and not wait till the end.
Okay, next written question we had here, Marina. Will the MBC have a process so that prospective applicants will know if they can complete GME in California? There's an
Sorry,
example
Sean,
here.
could you say it one more time?
Sure. Will the MBC have a process so that prospective applicants will know if they can complete GME in California? For example, a resident that has completed 18 months of OBGYN training, but now her program is closing. Can she come to California relatively confident that she can complete the remaining 30 months of training? Or that she would not have to have 24 months in one program at the same time she needs to have her full license?
Well, I don't think I can really answer that because there's a lot of different factors that would play into that. I mean, to obtain a physician surgeon's license, you don't need 24 months in the same program, but you are going to need it to renew your license. So, depending on the situation, if you've completed 18 and depending on your track, if you're not on track when you come to California to complete 24 months in the same program, you might get your license, but you're not going to be able to renew it. So there's a lot of other factors there, but I mean, I guess the only thing I can highlight is if you have the 12 or 24 months of training, you can get your initial license. But if you are not on track to have 36 months and 24 months in the same program, you're not going to be able to renew it. So I mean, my suggestion would be to reach out to us ahead of time and let us know what your plan is. And maybe we can work with you on, hey, here's some options as far as not only getting your license, but being able to renew it. But that's probably as much as I can answer on that question.
Okay, and Daniel, you asked that question. If you have a follow-up, I'd recommend raising your hand and we can call on you, and that way you can kind of have a back and forth there to maybe explain some of the subtleties there. As part of the transition application, PTL to physician and surgeon, do medical schools need to submit anything?
So, no, I don't, Rhonda, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe the answer is no. We should have everything already from the PTL application.
Correct. It would just be USMLE step 3 if they don't have that turned in.
Okay. Here's one, not really sure what the question is, but maybe it'll make more sense to you guys. When is the ideal time to call for corrections in the application?
Oh, well, I'm assuming that means if maybe you need to correct something you previously submitted, do it right away. You know, don't wait on that. If there's something you answered you think incorrectly or you need to change, just notify your assigned analyst right away. Now, if you don't have an assigned analyst yet, maybe you just recently submitted it, you can definitely use the email address there that you see on the screen, the licensing.questions@nbc.ca.gov. And let us know, you know, hey, I just submitted my app, I need to submit a correction, and we can tell you how best to do that.
And someone confirming here, if a resident has a current PTL issued prior to January 1st, 2022, they do not have to transition to the full license by March 1st, but they can if they choose to.
That is correct.
Right? If a U.S. graduate resident is currently completing 12 months out of state and starts our program on July 2022, will this resident have a 90-day grace period to obtain the full medical license?
I'm sorry, you'll say it one more time.
Sorry. If a United States graduate resident is currently completing 12 months of out of state, or just says 12 months out of state, and starts our program on July 2022, will this resident have a 90-day grace period to obtain the full medical license?
So does it say what type of program they're starting on July 2022, the question?
Unfortunately, it doesn't.
Okay, well, if it's an ACGME accredited program in California that you're starting on July 2022, then yes, you will have 90 days to obtain your physician surgeon's license.
Okay, the person who sent in that question named Amy. Amy, if you have a follow-up, go ahead and raise your hand and we can get you on the line and maybe get that sorted out for you. I've got Lauren raising her hand here. Lauren, you should be getting a prompt on your screen to go ahead and open your line. There you go, Lauren. Go ahead with your question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay,
Lauren. Go ahead.
perfect. Okay, so I have a question about the renewal of the license and verifying the 36 months of postgraduate training. I'm currently in a residency in Minnesota and will complete 35 months and then start fellowship in California in July of 2022. And so I just wanted to make sure that the postgraduate training, those 36 months, could be from a residency and a fellowship together.
And I'm sorry if you said this is the fellowship ACGME accredited?
It is.
Okay, then yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It can be right. As long as it's an ACGME accredited program, whether fellowship or not, it can apply towards the 36 months required.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Lauren. Next up, we have Daniel. Daniel, you should be seeing a prompt on your screen. There you go, Daniel. Looks like your line's open.
Yeah, I'm following up on that hypothetical question I posed in the written in about residents whose programs are closing, and some of them close at a time when the resident would not be able to ever get 24 months in a single program. In that event, this is high stakes for the resident whose program is closing. They are trying to determine where they can go to complete their program. Is there a way, or to whom would they direct the question at the medical board to try and get a ruling in real time so that they can be assured that if they do come to California, they will not be tripped up by not having 24 months in a single program at the end of 36 months of training?
Thanks. I understand, and we have seen, you know, those come across, and actually one of the changes to the law as a result of SB 806 was it does grant the board some discretion in determining compliance with the 36 months and the 24 months in the same program requirement. Unfortunately it's case by case, so I can't give a general, yes, it'll be okay, but like you said, who do you contact? So just you can email this email address here, the licensing.questions one, let them know the situation, and we can work with you on trying to figure out what the next steps would be, because it might be, if you haven't applied yet, send us your information and we'll take a look at it. We also have, and I'm just throwing it out there because some applicants have gone through this process. We do have an application review and special programs committee that can review kind of special case, scenarios such as like program closures and, those kind of hardships that have made it, nearly impossible for folks to meet the requirements. So there can be options, but it is case by case. So definitely just reach out to this email address, and we can work with you on figuring out what those options are.
Great. Thank you, Daniel. If that answers your question, you can go ahead and put your hand down. I don't know if it looked like it went down momentarily and came back up. So, okay, great. Thank you, Daniel. Next writing question regarding PTL holders prior to January 1st, 2022, the expiration date will remain and not change down to the 15-month. Question, does this cover both MD and DO board? Additionally, for these folks, if they wish, can they apply for 12 months of initial training? Or can they apply after the 12 months of initial training?
So this is just for the medical board. This is not the osteopathic medical board. This is just for the Medical Board of California physicians, surgeons, MDs. If the PTL was issued prior to Jan 1, 2022, then we are not changing the expiration date. There's no March deadline for obtaining a physician surgeon's license. So if you're in that situation where your PTL was issued prior to Jan 1, you just need to obtain your physician surgeon's license before your PTL expires.
Okay. So here we have a second-year resident with a PTL. I need to apply for the transition license, which is half of the fee and some things from my program. I'm not.
So if you're right, if you're a second year resident and you have a PTL, you're applying for your license, you're submitting the transition application, yes, you would pay half the license fee as long as you submit that CTV form. There'd probably be, another PTA, PTB that we would need to confirm, completion of the required training. Exam report, score report showing passage of USMLE Step 3. And then possibly additional documents. I should probably have mentioned that at the beginning, that the list of documents I went over is kind of a ballpark. It's a minimum. There could be additional documentation required at any point in time during our review, and we would reach out to you and request that. So I don't want to say, oh yeah, this is it for sure that you're going to need it. Once we review the application and everything you've submitted, that at the bare minimum is required, there could be additional documentation required, and that's for any application.
Okay. Someone here is saying that they finished their residency on June of 2022. They're asking if they should apply for a full license or a training one then. Just says full license, not a training one then.
Again, it depends on how much training will have been completed by June or July 2022. So let's say you're on track to complete your 12 months of training on June 30th, 2022. You could apply for your physician surgeon's license now, but we're not going to be able to issue it until you've completed, your 12 months and we've received all the required documentation. But in order for us to issue the physician surgeon's license, you have to have completed either 12 or 24 months of board approved training. So, but you can apply earlier than that. It's hard. I'm trying to think what this situation would be, if they're a PTL holder or not. So if you already have a PTL, then yes, by all means, if you're done with your 12 months of training on June 30th, 2022, then please go ahead and you can submit your transition app now. But if you're not a PTL holder, and if you're training in California, depending on your start date, you should probably already have a PTL by now. I mean, there are some people that have odd, that don't start at the, around June, July, and they have odd start dates. So that's kind of case by case. But, the law says you have to have your PTL within 180 days of enrollment. So if you are training currently in California, you should probably already have your PTL by now. But if you're coming from out of state, then you have 90 days from the date you start your program here to obtain a physician surgeon's license. And again, it must be an ACGME accredited program. So if you're out of state and you're coming to California starting an ACGME accredited program, you have 90 days to obtain your physician surgeon's license. So you should apply for that physician surgeon's license well before that 90 days is up. I tried to cover all the possible scenarios there. Hopefully that answers the question.
I think you covered this one here too, but it seems related. It's a different person, but they're saying if their PTL doesn't expire until late 2022, is it recommended to start transition licensing 6 months prior to expiration?
Yeah, if your PTL, I would say it is recommended to apply up to 6 months before your PTL expires. So if it's gonna expire at the end of 2022, 6 months back from that, you can go ahead and submit your application for a physician surgeon's license. Again, we can't issue the license until you've completed the required training, but you can certainly submit your application earlier on. And I say this because things come up on the application that require follow-up. Sometimes we have to get a document that's already been submitted by the program resubmitted if there was an issue with it. If there's unusual circumstances, it could require additional review, which again adds to the time. So sometimes you can apply 6 months in advance, and before you know it, we're still working on application issues, a month before, you need your license. So that's why we kind of stress applying early, because you never know what's going to come up. We don't know till we review the application. So it's just to build in, plenty of time. The best case scenario is you submit it 6 months in advance, you've got everything needed, and all that's needed is that final PTA PTB once you complete your 12 or 24 months. And then 30 days before completion, you're sending in that PTA PTB, and we reviewed, and you're done. And your license is issued literally the date you complete your 12 or 24 months. Well, I mean, that's the best case scenario, depending if it falls on a weekend or holiday, it might be around there. But point being is that, that's really the best case scenario.
Okay, thank you, Maria. Had a few questions from individuals. Sounds like they're representatives of a medical school or a program, asking how they sign up for the docs website. And I went ahead and pasted the link on our website to those people asking that question. But if anyone else has that question, you can go to our website, www.mbc, like Medical Board California.ca.gov. And in the search bar, if you just type in docs, DOCS, you'll come to a page that has all the information, the registration form, everything you need to get that going for your medical school or program. And then for all the other, applicants, non-medical school or program representatives, but actual people interested in applying, there is currently a yellow banner up at the top of our website that says fee increases in licensing and enforcement law changes to start on January 1st, 2022. There's a learn more button there. That'll kind of summarize everything about SB 806, but it has a lot of this information out there as well too, if you'd like to go look at that on our website. Next written question here is, what does out-of-state fellows match to CA program need to do? Would it be regular physician and surgeon license?
So again, it depends on how many months of training, board approved training have been completed or received credit for. I should say received credit, because that was one change in SB 806, as it specifies the number of months of credit received for their training. So if you've already, if you only require 12 months of training, then you can apply for physician surgeon license anytime. And as I said before, up to 6 months even prior to completing that 12 months of training. If you need 24 months of training, then again, you can apply, up to 6 months before completing that 24 months of required training. So it just depends on where you're at in your training and how many months of training you've completed or received credit for will dictate, when you should apply. So again, I'll just say one more time, You can apply up to 6 months prior to obtaining the required training for licensure, whether it's 12 or 24 months. You can submit that application that early, and then we'll issue the license once all the requirements have been met. So once you've completed the required training and all the other requirements are met, we'll issue the license. But you can apply before you meet the requirements.
Okay, thank you, Maria. For the PTA and PTB form, will the board accept it if it has a hospital seal in lieu of a notary?
So if it's submitted through docs, we don't need the notary. If it's mailed, we have to have the notary. There's no exceptions.
In the case of docs, right, we don't even require the seal anymore, correct?
No, right, correct. We don't require the seal anymore.
Great. Okay. Next up, we have here Jeremy. Jeremy, you should be receiving a prompt on your side to go ahead and mute your microphone.
And sorry, Sean, I don't mean to cut off here. I think I may have misunderstood the previous question. So on the I just want to clarify on the notary section, it has to be notarized, but the box says program or notary seal. So if they're asking if I get it notarized, but can I have the program or notary seal there? If I'm mailing it in, then yes, you can have either the program or notary seal, but it still has to be notarized. Like it doesn't exempt, it's not, there's no exception to the notarization. I hope that, maybe that was what was being asked, but I just want to clarify that. Sorry.
No exception if they're mailing it in, but again, through docs,
Right,
that
mailing
section.
it, yes.
Yeah, all right, great.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, Jeremy, I see you got your line open. Go ahead with your question.
Yes, hello. Thank you. Jeremy Fish. I'm a program director, and I'm just appreciate all these efforts you guys are doing to clarify everything. I'm gonna present a question focused on current third-year residents who are holders of a PTL. As you may or may not know, signing up to get credentialed is a requirement of employment at many sites that they are applying for jobs. Credentialing processes take oftentimes 3 to 6 months, and usually have a precursor requirement to have a full California license in order to apply for credentials. So I'm advising our residents to transition to the full license as soon as possible to help them in that process. And yet I realize that then is leading to them in June or July having to get renewals, and so they're having to pay, or we're helping support them to pay twice in a few months to go through licensing process. I just was wondering if that is a common challenge that you're seeing, or if you think perhaps the employers are going to allow these PTLs to be used for credentialing. Have you got any insights into whether or not that is the right advice to be giving my residents, or should they just wait since their PTL will not expire and just do the renewal at the end of their 36 months of training? So thanks.
I just want to clarify something. When you talk about renewal, the PTL is not renewable. There is no renewal of the PTL. So are you just speaking strictly of the physician surgeon's license
Maybe what
renewal?
you're saying, right, is that then I guess that's right. So if they've got a PTL right now, third-year residents, if they don't transition to a full license, what would happen to them at the end of training? Would they do the transition then, I guess, and then have to do another renewal at some other time? I'm a little confused about this
Right.
very specific
No,
first
yeah.
renewal requirements that you guys have.
Yes. So if they're a PTL holder and they're in their third year, and let's just say their third year, they'll complete their third year on June 30th, let's just say, of 2022. So they can apply for their physician and surgeon's license right now. Okay, so they already have more than enough training to qualify for a license. So let's just say they apply now, and let's say we issue the license, in March. Let's just say the license is issued
Okay.
in March. They wouldn't have to renew for 2 years. It's a 2-year renewal
Okay.
cycle.
All
Yeah.
right, great. That's helpful. Thanks.
Okay,
Because
sure.
oftentimes they've mostly done it right after they graduate previously, before we got to the PTL stuff. So I just was trying to
Oh, I see. Right.
how this was going to work. So thank you. That helps.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jeremy. We have Cameron again. Cameron, you should be getting the prompt again on your end.
Thank you so much for having me. I am writing the PTA PTB. It says, attention program director, do not sign and date this form more than 30 days prior to the last day of any postgraduate training year that will be used by the applicant to qualify for licensure. If I give this form to my program director based on this note, they shouldn't sign it?
That depends on how many months of training you've completed. So are you close to
I am 32 and a half years in this program, so 30 months right now.
Yeah, so you've already completed the training required for licensure. It's not the training, like, it's not completion of your training, like full program. It's the training required for licensure. So you've already completed it then if you've got, what you said, 32 months of, of
30 months.
credit
I
of training.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
30.
when I read this, it was a little bit confusing. I thought maybe they refused to sign it because it's not 1 month before finishing the whole year.
Yeah, it's it's hard to word it in the way that makes it clear that and also it changed. So that used to not say that. It actually, the old form used to say, do not sign it until they've completed the training. Now we've changed it to, you can complete it 30 days prior to completion of the training needed for licensure. So whatever it is, it's either 12 or 24 months.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay, and I think this one might be kind of related here, so I'll go ahead and read it off here. But will a second PTA PTB form need to be submitted upon completion of a 36 months of training?
Yes. So once you complete 36 months of training, including 24 months in the same program, you need to submit another PTA PTB in order to renew your physician and surgeon's license for the first time. So by then you would likely already have your physician and surgeon's license. And then when you come up for renewal, you're going to have completed that 36 months, but you don't have to wait till you come up for renewal to submit that form. So as soon as you complete your 36 months, go ahead and send in that PTA PTB.
All right. Next up, we have, I believe, Rakai. Rakai, if you should be seeing a prompt on your screen to unmute your microphone there. I'm trying to go with the folks raising their hands, as I think the questions are sometimes clear to understand. There you go, Rakai. I see your line is open. Please go ahead.
All the discussions. It's very helpful. So my question is, I know you're talking a lot about the PTA and all. So I have done my training out of state, out of California. Like now I've been practicing since 2015 in different states. So if I'm looking for a job to relocate in California, so are you saying for a physician's license? I am eligible for physician's license, and so are you saying if I apply for physician license, I still have 90 days to get my full physician license once I start the job, or is it for just the trainees? Or I'm just confused.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So the 90 days only applies to those that are enrolling in an ACGME accredited program in California. So if you're coming into an ACGME accredited program in California, you have 90 days to obtain your license. If you're not, if you're coming into like a job, you're not a resident, you're not a trainee, then you have to have your physician surgeon's license before you can even start practicing in California.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. And
Okay.
also you have so is it, you said current time for a physician's license, if everything is if there is no deficiency, is like 30 days or something?
Okay, yeah, so the timeline is from the date we receive the application to the date of the initial review, just reviewing that application. Right now, it's 30 days, but the time until the license is issued completely depends on the deficiencies I've identified and how quickly the applicant's able to remediate those deficiencies.
And what's the average time if there is no deficiency and everything you have after?
Oh, yeah, if there's no deficiencies, once we review it, the license would be issued in a matter of like no more than 2 weeks, likely less than that.
All right. Also, I think somebody already asked you the questions. I just wanted to know. So, I have my full FCVS package, and I'm going to submit that too. So if you are happy with whatever FCVS, I mean, I got other state licenses through FSMB and FCVS. If you are happy with whatever they give it to you, will you still need verification, because I'm IMG verification from my medical school back in other country?
So if we can accept everything submitted from, through your FCVS profile, then we wouldn't need to request those documents again, but we would let you know. So we would review and we'd say, here's what we still need. We can't, if there's something we cannot accept, through the FCVS, then we would say, we can't accept this document. We need you to, request it from your medical school or from your training program or whatever the document is.
So I was under the impression you still need verification directly from medical school, and maybe obviously the ACGME accreditation postgraduate training, you need direct verification from my postgraduate training program. But that
Yeah.
you will accept the medical school diploma, right? If it's from
Right.
you, there is a chance, right?
You're right. There's still the MED form, which is a board form that they would need to submit. And then there's the PTA, PTB, which is a form the program would need to submit. But the other documents, that the transcript, like you said, transcript, diploma, those things that come through FCBS, we could potentially accept those.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Next up, we have here C Evans 15 or C Evans 015 is the screen name here. You should be receiving a prompt on your end to go ahead and unmute. There you go. I see you have it unmuted. And for everyone who's asking questions, I'm trying to sort through them and find duplicative ones and mark them off and reply back to you. But we're going to go we've got about 45 minutes left of questions, so we'll try to get as many of the written ones as we can. I'll keep calling on the hand-raising ones, though, because I think those are questions that we probably haven't answered, and they're probably a little more informational in the time we have left. So go ahead, C. Evans.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. So I think she partially answered my question that I had previously. I'm sorry, I had to take a call and I got partial answer. Mine was a question about the fellow graduating. This particular fellow has completed 36 months of training in Michigan, but he's going to be one of our sports fellow, and I was wondering if they just apply regular, like for a physician license, since they've already completed their training.
Yes. If they've completed their 36 months already, they're from out of state and they're coming here, then they applied directly for their physician surgeon's license.
Perfect. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
And I do want to just point out, just because it looks like we might have some people that, joined in the middle, or, maybe they've come in and out, that we are recording this and we will post the recording on the website. So if you miss anything, you can always go back and listen to the recording as well.
Great. Next up, we have Dawn. Dawn, I'm sending a request to you. Open your line. There you go, Dawn.
My question is, are residents that had applied for PTL to physician and surgeon license in December. At that time, the fee was lower. I believe it was $416.50. So will you be honoring that fee, or will they have to pay the difference of the new licensing fee?
So that's a good question. So we're going off of postmark date. So if we received, or I should say, if the complete application, which is again application and fee, were both postmarked before Jan 1, then we will honor the old fees. But if we got an application on December 30th with no fee, and then the fee comes in after Jan 1, it's got to be the new fee. So we go off postmark date of a completed app, which again, I shouldn't say completed, complete. So a complete application is one with a form and the fee together. If we get one or the other, it's not a complete app. We don't accept it. We send a letter saying this is incomplete. We can't accept, you need to provide, either the form or the fee, whatever's missing. So if both are postmarked before Jan 1, 2022, we'll honor the old fee.
Okay, great. And then one other question, as far as the fees, on the website, it shows $491, and on this presentation, it says $415 or $456.50. So I just want to clarify, what is the actual fee for the PTL to physician surgeon license?
So the $491, I believe, is the application fee plus the fingerprint fee, and then I think the other fee said that, I apologize if I get it, $456.50. That's the half of the initial license fee for the physician and surgeon's license. So those are two different fees. I hope I answered that correctly. And let me just look back and make sure I'm covering. There's quite a lot of fees. Okay, so the $456.50 is half of the initial license fee for a physician and surgeon's license. The $491, I believe, is the application fee plus the fingerprint fee. If you just give me 1 second, I'm going to confirm that. I apologize. I'm not seeing maybe I misheard the $491. What you said, you saw it on the slide?
Marina?
No, the $491 is actually on the website.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it
no,
just says,
that's a good question. So I should let folks know we're still in the process of updating our website. So we have an SB 806 webpage that has all the current fees. We're still updating all the other pages on our website that mention fees. So thank you for pointing that out. So if you want to know what the current fees are, they are on the application and in the it's called an information and checklist. So if you go to our website and you click on a license type you're going to apply for and you click apply, you scroll down, you'll see apply online, apply by mail. On the right hand side, there'll be a link to the application information and checklist that has kind of like the instructions and guide on how to complete the application, plus it has all the fees. And then our SB 806 webpage, there's a banner at the top of our homepage that you click on regarding new changes effective Jan 1, and that also has a fee chart of all the current fees. So I apologize, there are some pages we are still working on updating for the fees. So for now, just rely on the application form, the information checklist form, and the SB 806 webpage for the current fees.
And that's that yellow
Excellent.
banner at the top of our website, yeah, to make it easy to find.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And Rhonda, I apologize. I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you want to add anything?
No, I was just going to say the $491 was the old application fee.
Oh, yeah. Okay, right. So yeah, we will be working on updating. We are working on updating those fees on there. And I apologize to folks if that was confusing, seeing an old fee on there. So we'll have that updated soon.
And then as far as one other question, as far as deficiencies, once the application has been received, what is the timing and what is the communication? I know that you say.
Dawn, I'm getting a lot of feedback on your line, like something like making it stutter there. Let's try to unmute you again and see if that'll clear up. You should be getting another prompt on your side. Go ahead and try again, Dawn.
Can you hear me okay?
It's very glitchy.
Okay. Just the question if there's deficiencies, will the analyst send an email to the applicant, or will it be regular? What is the method of communication?
I believe the question was, will the analyst be emailing the applicant, Marina, for the deficiencies?
Yeah, I think that's what I heard too. So once we review the application, then yes, if we have, I'm sorry, email address is required. So yes, we will always email the deficiency letter. I believe, usually mail it as well. And so they might get both. They might get it emailed and mailed, but we definitely email it.
Okay, thank you, Dawn. Sorry, I don't know why it got a little glitchy there at the end, but next up we have Jamal with his hand up. Go ahead, Jamal.
Hello?
You're open. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks for answering these questions. I really appreciate you guys taking the time and going through this process. I did write a little bit of the prompt in the Q&A session, or in Q&A text, but basically I'm a third-year resident and a 4-year program. And my PTL ends, I had it started before, and it ends on 10/22. And traditionally, during the beginning of the 4th year, people in my residency have started moonlighting in July, and I know that moonlighting requires a full licensure, and I'm not really sure if they're going to take the PTL. So my question is, for people in my position, two-part question: should we start applying for the transition, and then apply for the PNS after we get the transition license, or should we just apply for the PNS right now to be able to potentially to moonlight at the beginning of our 4th year?
So it's only one license. It's a physician surgeon's license. There's just two different applications. One application is called the transition application, which is if you're applying for your physician surgeon's license when you already have a PTL, then you submit the transition application to get a physician surgeon's license. And then there's the physician and surgeon's license application for those who do not have a PTL. That's the only difference between the two apps. It's just, do you have a PTL or don't you, determines which application you submit, but there is no transition license. You're just applying in both cases for a physician's and surgeon's license.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, great. Thank you for questions. So that's the end of the hand raising questions I have. I'll go ahead and start reading off the rest of the written questions here, but if anyone would like to ensure that the question gets answered with the 37 minutes we have remaining, I do urge you to go ahead and raise your hand. I think those questions are more informational to everyone. So if we have a question here, if a resident has or will complete a preliminary year in another state and will join a residency in California as a PGY2, should they apply for a full license? Do they have 60 days to get the license? Resident ends preliminary year on June 30th and starts PGY2 on July 1st.
That's a good question. So again, assuming that their PGY2 is going to be in an ACGME accredited program, they can just apply for their physician surgeon's license because you have 90 days from when you start that PGY2. So you can technically apply before you start your PGY2. You don't have to wait till you start your PGY2, because if you've already completed 12 months and you're a US or Canadian medical school graduate, you only need 12 months of training, you can go ahead and apply before you even complete your 12 months, so that, just to give yourself as much time as possible. But once you start that PGY2, you still have 90 days before you even need your physician surgeon's license. So yes, you would be applying for your physician surgeon's license. You don't have to wait till you start your PGY2 to apply for it. You can apply before you come here. So hopefully that answers that question.
Thank you, Marina. We've got Edmund here raising his hand. Edmund, if you're getting the prompt on your side, you should be able to unmute now. There you go, Edmund. I see your line open.
Thank you. Sorry if this has already been answered. I was just curious, like the timing of when the website was going to be updated, and then you have to use the website, so it's not possible right now to apply for the transitional license. Is that correct?
So you can apply through mail. The transition application for a physician surgeon license is available like on the board's website, where you can download it. I think it's fillable. You fill it out, you can print it and mail it in. We're hoping that the online applications will be updated by tonight. So if you want to wait till tomorrow and try, you should be able to move through those online applications.
Okay, but it's okay to mail it in. Okay.
Oh, yes, it's fine to mail it in. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to confirm from Marina, everything looks on track for a release tonight to update the Breeze site. It's kind of a distinction between the Medical Board website and the Breeze site. The Medical Board forms on the Medical Board website are up to date. The application on the Breeze website, we're have been waiting for a few days now to get some changes put in there, and everything looks on target that that's going to happen this evening at around 5 o'clock. System will probably be down for an hour to two, maybe. So by even later this evening, I'd say 8 p.m. tonight or something like that would be safe time to go ahead and check that out if you're interested in applying online. We got Annie Lee back here. Annie, you want to go ahead and unmute your side? Your line's open, Annie. Go ahead.
We can edit and we can only pay. Do you recommend, since it's not updated yet, to just do a new one, or what do we do if we've already submitted it?
I think we missed the first part. I don't know if you caught that, Marina, but Annie, would you repeat the whole question again?
Sure. I just wanted to ask, just to follow up, because as you mentioned, it's going to be updated tonight, the Breeze online app. But if we've already looked through and kind of are at that summary portion where you can't edit it anymore, you just can pay, what would you recommend us doing? Because it's kind of already submitted it as part of the old version and they're not the updated one that's going to be happening tonight.
Yeah, that's okay. If you submitted an app with the old application, there's nothing in it additional you need to do. I mean, we can accept the old application. These are just updates to like the questions so that they don't reflect that you need 36 months of postgraduate training anymore. It reflects the 12 or 24. So we could still accept the old apps. That's fine. So the only thing you need to do is if your assigned analyst sent you any, a deficiency letter, just working on those deficiencies, that would be it. And I actually, oh, sorry, go ahead, Sean. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to put you on the spot, and I was just looking to see if I had someone who could confirm this for us too. But if they did submit that prior to January 1, but held off at the summary page, I believe the fees would have been calculated. So if any fees changed, they might still reflect the older fee through
Yeah.
through the Breeze system.
Yeah. If you went through the online app, but didn't pay the fee, we're not even processing it right now. We don't process it until we get the fee. And so I think you're right, Sean. I think if you went back in now to pay the fee, then you would be paying the new fee.
Okay. Let me see if I can get an answer to that question and come back to online with you guys, because I think when you get to that summary page, it's already checked to see what the fees are, and just because the calendar year switched over, I don't know that the fees would update,
Oh, I
because it
see what
kind of
you're
looks
saying.
at it at the
Okay.
time. So let
Oh,
me see if I
okay.
can confirm with
Yeah.
staff here and bring an answer back to that in just a sec.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah.
Next written question we have is to clarify, do you need to provide all licenses held during training/provisional? I recall old forms did not require that.
That's correct. We previously did not require license verifications for temporary, provisional, or training licenses, but that's changed now. So we are requiring license verifications for those license types now. So if you've already submitted your application, you might be hearing from your analyst requesting those documents. But we'll take that on case by case, because if you're we've already moved on through the review process before we implemented this change, we're not going to go back and pull your license application back and like not issue you the license. So I will say it's case by case for those that are pending, but for those we haven't reviewed yet, yes, if you submitted it, but we haven't reviewed it yet, we're going to probably be asking you if you do have a training or provisional license, we probably will be asking you for that verification of those licenses. But again, for the ones we've already reviewed, and especially the ones that are already, moving forward for licensure, that'll be case by case. So, but your analyst will reach out to you if we need anything else.
Okay. If an IMG graduate is just out of medical school and starting a 3-year residency program on July 2022, do they need to transition from a PTL to a PNS after their first year in residency?
So if you're starting your residency on July 1, 2022, you have 180 days to obtain your PTL. So once you obtain your PTL, and again, ideally within that 180 days, because if you don't obtain it within 180 days of starting a program, you have to cease training. So once you get your PTL within that 180 days, then you can submit the transition application for a physician surgeon's license. But we ask that you don't do that any more than 6 months before completing your 12 or 24 months, whatever's required to obtain a license. So you would get your PTL first, and then you would submit your transition application again up to 6 months prior to completion of 12 or 24 months of training.
Okay, thank you, Maria. I received confirmation too that if a application was submitted prior to January 1st, 2022 through the Breeze online system, and by submitted, I mean to the point where you got to that summary page prior to paying the fees. Once you get to the part where it's calculated the fees in Breeze, it will reflect what the fee was at that time that you got to that page. So if that was prior to January 1, 2022, it will continue to reflect the old fee. So I mean, I don't know if we're looking at updating those how are we going to handle those? Have you guys discussed that?
Well, I don't think we probably need to do anything with them because if once the fee is paid, it'll, like clear in the system. So I don't think we would be. Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking about I apologize. If the fee is received after Jan 1?
Yeah, the fee was calculated, but it wasn't paid yet.
I
And
gotcha.
now we're after Jan 1.
I see.
Is there
Yeah.
anything special they need to do?
Well, yeah, I guess in that case they'd probably have to submit a check for the difference. So the difference between the old fee and the new fee. Since the fee wouldn't be received until after Jan 1 and technically the applicant would owe the new fee. So that, that you'd get a letter. So if that happens, you'd be getting a letter from the board saying you owe additional fees. And it could really only be submitted as a check because once you pay, online the amount that you pay, you can't like go back and pay with the credit card again. You have to then submit by or check or money order to the board.
Okay, great. It says here, should current PTL holders with at least 12 months of training apply for their PNS license as soon as they are eligible, or can they continue with a PTL until it expires or they reach their 36 months? Not sure if there's an advantage to holding a PNS versus PTL.
So you can apply, once you've obtained the required months of training, 12 or 24, you can apply for your physician surgeon's license. You can, as I mentioned, even apply before then, up to 6 months before then. But as far as advantages to holding off, the only one I think I'll point out that is, I think, important is if during your training, you're for whatever reason not on track to get credit for that 12 or 24 months. Maybe there was a period of probation, a leave of absence, you have to make up time. That's when you probably want to, use your PTL until it's, closer to its expiration to put off getting that. I don't want to say put off, but wait a little longer before getting your physician surgeon's license, because once you get your physician surgeon's license, you have 2 years to complete 36 months of training. So if you're not on schedule to, if you qualify, if you've done, you could get your 12 or 24 months, but you're for whatever reason, you could get your physician surgeon license, but you think you're not going to be on track to get your 36 months within 2 years, then maybe you want to think about the timing of it. Like maybe that example I gave with the leave of absence wasn't a good example because maybe you had to, you still got the credit for, that time. I don't know, every program might do it a little differently, but maybe a good example might be like research. Like if you're doing research in the middle of your training, like let's say you complete 12 months of training and then you're going to do a year of research. If you get your license after 12 months, you have 2 years to complete another 24 months of training. So if one of those years is research, you're going to need more time. So those are that's probably a better scenario of when you kind of need to consider, do I get my physician surgeon's license now that I've completed 12 months? Am I going to be on track to finish the rest of my training to get the additional 24 months before my license expires, or do I need to think about the timing of this? So that's probably the biggest one I would say you need to consider as far as timing. But I think there's been other folks who, you know, have asked the question on here of, you know, being able to moonlight with a PTL versus a physician surgeon license. Again, the board doesn't have any restrictions for that, but I believe it is related to, you know, Medi-Cal billing and, you know, which license is accepted by Department of Healthcare Services. So that might be a different, another factor you need to take into consideration. But yeah, that's pretty much only on the timing side of, you know, when you should get your physician surgeon license. Just make sure that the timing will work out so that once you get your license, you'll be able to complete that 36 months, including 24 in the same program, before your license expires.
Okay, thank you, Marina. And I think we've answered this one too, but I just want to be 100% sure instead of writing back myself. But if a PTL doesn't expire until late 2022, did you state that it is recommended to start the transitioning license process 6 months prior to expiration?
Yes, that's a good idea. Starting, I said it, I think in the slides I said at least 3 months prior to expiration, but you can certainly apply up to 6 months prior to expiration.
Okay. Another one here asking that they transferred to a California program as an incoming PGY3. Their prior 2 years were both at ACGME programs. So they already submitted their PTA, PTB forms and USMLE through step 3 for the PTL, and the board has them on file. Is the CTV from my current program the only additional form needed for my physician surgeon application?
So unfortunately, I can't answer that question because I don't have your file in front of me, and I can't pull it up and answer specific questions like that regarding an application status. So I would recommend reaching out to your assigned analyst, emailing or calling them, and double checking to see if there's anything else needed. If you have a Breeze account, or even if you don't, you can register and create one and log in, and you will see your pending application and see if there's any deficiencies listed there. So either of those are ways you can find out if anything else is needed for your license application.
Okay, thank you, Marina. Next one's saying they're looking at the CVT form on the Breeze website, and it still has an area for notarization. Do we still need to notarize that form?
Yes, that form needs to be notarized if it is mailed. If it's being submitted through docs, it does not need to be notarized.
Someone here has a resident who is pending information from previous program and the PTL has not been issued. Is there anything that the program can do to help facilitate? The resident is off service until licensure is obtained. However, these types of situations when previous programs do not prioritize information, it causes such a great burden for our current program residents enrolled.
Oh, sorry, Sean, do you mind just saying that one more time?
They have a resident who is pending information from a previous program and a PTL has not been issued. And it sounds like they're wondering is, can the current program do anything about the previous program? I wouldn't think so, right? I mean, all the documentation would still have to come from that previous program. Like they're basically
Right,
saying the resident is off service until licensure is obtained. It sounds like we're waiting on this previous program.
right. Usually in those situations, we advise the applicant to reach out to the previous program and let them, you know, the situation, like, hey, I can't practice till you provide this information. I mean, sure. I mean, the current program, I guess, could do that as well, but that's really, that's all that, you know, I think can be done at that point. Unfortunately, yeah.
All right, great. Question here, if you have submitted an old L1 form by mail, but the application is still pending, do you recommend submitting a new form by mail or wait to see if there are any discrepancies?
I definitely advise waiting until your application is reviewed. Submitting a duplicate application when it has not been requested can just slow down the process. So wait till your application's reviewed. The analyst will notify you if anything else is needed. We're not, if if you submitted the old form, we're not taking those old forms and saying, oh, well, you know, the old form didn't have this new question we added, so we're gonna, you know, need them to complete it or anything like that. We're accepting the old forms. It's really the same process. The new forms or the updated forms, those were just to get more information up front that we've been collecting, but been doing it after the initial review. Like it's been more back and forth with folks. So all these updates have been to just get that information early on. So we'll still be able to, you know, we'll review the information and contact you if we need anything else. But I would not suggest submitting a duplicate form because that can just cause confusion and you don't want any further delays for any reason. Because what can happen, I'll just give you the biggest example of what happens. You submit your first form, you answer all the questions a certain way. You submit the form again and you maybe forgot how you answered it before and you put just one different thing on there. One date different, one question answered differently, and now there's a discrepancy. And now we have to ask for a letter of explanation. If it's a different date, we might have to call the program. If it's a program date, like, why is this date different now? I mean, it can just cause a lot of delays and problems. So please just wait for your application to be reviewed and your analyst to reach out to you on any more information they need.
Okay, thank you, Maria. Will training waivers by ABMS member boards count towards the 24-month requirement for initial license?
So I'm not familiar with ABMS's waivers. All I can tell you is that there are no exceptions in law for the required training. I say no exceptions except for, so there are different pathways to licensure. There's the out-of-state license pathways. That's Business and Professions Code Section 2135, 2135.5. So those, if you're coming in through a different pathway to licensure, then, you know, you may or may not need, you know, certain, you know, the same years of training. But if you're just coming in the regular pathway, then there's no other exceptions in statute for the training that's required, which is the 12 or 24 months. So I can't speak specifically to any you know, ABMS's policy or board policy. I just can tell you that their requirements are different from ours, and that we have to follow what's in statute and in our regulations. And it may or may not be the same as what, you know, a board policy is.
I have a question here. I'm gonna read it to my best of my understanding. There's lots of abbreviations and things here, but the LOA is letter of attestation or something. Letter of, does that one make sense to you, Maria? LOA.
The letter with LOE. I'm trying to think what. Rhonda, does LOA sound familiar to you?
No, not to me.
They're talking about related to physician wellness for those who may need a LOA for mental health diagnosis. They are concerned about the attestation. I don't understand really what the question is. I'm going to ask Michelle maybe to go ahead and re-ask that question. So
yeah, and if it's very specific to like that specific scenario facing, you know, this applicant, I suggest emailing it to the email address we have there, because most likely we're not going to be able to answer it here anyways. We'll have to look into it, look at the file, and look at everything that's going on with it. So I would suggest if it's very specific to something that was requested, the board requested of the applicant, that's a very, you know, situational, case by case, I would email the licensing.questions@nbc.ca.gov email, and or your assigned analyst who's reviewing your application, and we can respond that way.
yeah, I'm thinking they mean letter of explanation too, but
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's probably best that they reach out with a specific question like that too, especially mental health kind of a case or something. So here we have a question. Can we send CVS online request via Ecfmg to send our Ecfmg certification?
I'm sorry, I'm going to need to hear that one again.
Sorry, lots of abbreviations. Can we send CVS online request via Ecfmg to send our Ecfmg certification?
Rhonda, are you familiar with the CVS? I'm not sure what that is.
I'm not sure if they're talking about the FCVS profile. Sometimes the Ecfmg certification is in there.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
Otherwise, it has to be mailed directly from Ecfmg to the board.
But it could come through FCVS?
Sometimes, yeah, it's usually in the FCVS profile.
Okay. Okay, hopefully that answers the question then.
Okay. Yeah, if not, yeah, that licensing questions could be a follow-up for that. We're about into the speed round portion of our presentation here. So, do any pathways for full licensure exist for IMGs that are specialists who cannot ever complete 24 consecutive months of training because it does not exist for their specialties? ACGME fellowships.
There are different pathways. We have, but there's only one that actually leads to like permanent, I say permanent, well, yeah, permanent full and unrestricted license. So we have special permits. They're under Business and Professions Code 2111, 2112, 2113, and 2168. If you come in that, if you obtain a permit through one of those pathways, they're temporary. There's a limit on how long you can have that permit. And the 2113 permit is the only one where any experience or time spent practicing with that permit can be applied towards licensure. And I believe the question mentioned, did they say faculty, that they're a faculty member in the question?
I don't see faculty, I just see
No.
ECGME fellowships.
Oh, just fellowships. Well, I apologize. Off the top of my head, I don't remember which one it is, but one of those does, I think, include fellowships. I want to say it's 2111 or 2112, but either way, I mean, that's one way. Those are, some different pathways to practice in California, but they're very limited in scope. It's typically limited to a faculty position, or I believe, like I said, one of them I believe does include fellowships. And then there's also, if you have a license out of state, I mentioned the 21 BPC Business Professions Code 2135 and 2135.5. So if you have a license in their state, that could be another pathway to licensure. But that's pretty much it. So I mean, there's information on our website on some of those pathways, but really you need to refer to the statute to see what the requirements are.
Okay.
Rhonda, I don't know if you can think of any others off the top of your head that might apply.
No, just the 2135, and also the special permits like you were talking about. And
Okay.
special permits, if you put it in the search function, it will come up and give you information on each of those.
Okay, thanks.
The search function on our website, you mean, right, Rhonda?
Yes. Yes, free.
Great. Next one we have here is when do we start to apply for the renewal of a PNS? And normally I would say that the renewal normally it's open within 6 months, but they say here if we're in a 4-year residency program, we could start that process in residency, right? And I'm not sure what they mean by that, Marina.
I'm not sure I do either. If you're in a residency program and you have your physician surgeon's license, if you complete your 36 months prior to when you're coming up for your license expiration, you can go ahead and submit that PTA PTB right away. Like, you don't have to wait till your license comes up for expiration and it's time for you to renew to submit that documentation. If you complete your 36 months well before that, then go ahead and send in that PTA PTB right away, so we can get that processed before you come up for renewal. So maybe that's what they might be referring to.
Okay, yeah, just in general, when you are issued a physician and surgeon license and you get that expiration date, your renewal becomes available in Breeze almost exactly 180 days prior to that. So, approximately 6 months. So As long as you had all the documentation and everything ready, that's when you could go ahead and start that. But renewals are not able to be processed prior to that 180 days, certainly. So I just add that on there. But the next question is, do visiting residents whose primary training program is outside of California, are they required to hold a PTL before starting any clinical training in California?
I'm sorry, do you mind just saying it one more time? I apologize.
Sorry. Do visiting residents whose primary training program is outside of California, I believe they meant to say, are they required to hold a PTL before starting any clinical training in California?
So if they're training outside of California and they're coming to California to start an ACGME accredited program, they have, again, it depends on how many months of training they've already completed. So if they have not completed enough months of a board approved training to qualify for physician surgeon license, then they would be applying for their PTL, and they have 180 days from the date they start their program in California to get that PTL. Now, if they've already completed the months of training required for licensure or are close to completing it, if they need 12 or 24, then they could apply for their physician surgeon's license, and they would need to get that within 90 days of starting their program. So it just, again, it depends on how many months of board approved training they've already completed and kind of where they're at in that process. If they're not sure, please email us just your exact situation of, hey, I've completed this many months, I'm starting my training program in California on this date, which license should I be applying for? That would be helpful, because again, it just depends on kind of where you're at and as far as how many months of training you've completed. But either way, if you're coming from out of state and you're coming to California in an ACGME accredited program, you have time to get a license before, so you don't have to have it immediately on the day you're starting training in California. So you do have some time. It'll just depend on which license you're going that you need, will dictate whether it's 90 days or 180 days. So just go ahead and email us. That's your specific information, and we can we can let you know.
All right, great. Seems like this is a continuation from some question that was asked sometime earlier ago, but does this mean that our current trainees, first and second years, who obtained their PTL due to the old licensing rules can apply for their physician surgeon license after they complete 12 months of training? They no longer have to wait the full 36 months, correct?
Yes, correct.
Did I hear correctly that if you are transitioning from PTL to physician and surgeon's license, that you do not need the TF4 notarized?
So I want to be clear. So what was the TF1 through TF4 is now the TF1 through TF3. It's just that the numbers changed because we got rid of one section on the application. That was the notary section. So that section on the application no longer needs to be completed, but all pages of the application need to be completed. So the TF1 through TF3 still need to be completed. There's just no notary section on it. So you still have to sign the last page. You still have to provide the 2x2 photo. Pretty much everything else is still required. It's just the notary section was removed, which consolidated the form from a 4-page form to a 3-page form. So still all the pages of the form are still required.
Yeah, thank you. Just type in the answer here. I believe this was answered previously too, but just in case, the CBT form that does have the area for notarization, they do need that notarized if submitting by mail, right? But that's one that if it comes through docs, it doesn't require the notary.
Correct.
Go ahead. Now, can residents who are currently or who currently hold a PTL with 12 plus months, but are now eligible and want to get the PNS prior to the expiration of their PTL, can they apply at any time, or do you suggest they wait till the end of the academic year?
I think I understood that question as they have the 12 or 24 months, but their PTL doesn't expire for a while. Should they wait or apply now? I don't have a recommendation either way. There was someone asked a similar question, and I gave some examples of when you need to think of the timing of when you apply for your physician surgeon license. So first and foremost being making sure you're applying well before your PTL expires. The second being, depending on when your physician surgeon license is issued, you have the clock starts ticking for when you need to complete 36 months, including 24 months in the same program. So it's a 2-year, the license is issued for 2 years. So once that physician surgeon license is issued, you have 2 years to complete that training that's required for renewal. So just keep that in mind. Make sure that you're going to be on track to complete that before your physician surgeon license expires. So those are kind of the two big things you need to consider as far as timing wise. But once you qualify for licensure, once you have the required months of training or even up to 6 months before then, you can technically submit your application. We're not going to issue the license until you meet all the requirements, but you can apply early.
Okay. Just trying to get through a bunch of them here, verbal or text at the end. Say, would you mind clarifying what programs need to submit for PGY 1, 2, or 3 who have PTLS expiring between 2022 and 2024, but now want to apply for the full license?
So we would need the PTA PTB from the program that shows completion of the training required for licensure. So if it was 12 months of training, we need the PTA PTB showing 12 months. If it's 24, we needed to show the 24 months of training. I don't think there's anything else unless, depending on the information we get on that form, it's possible there could be additional information needed from the program, but we wouldn't know until we review the PTA PTB. Oh, and then sorry, if you're still a PGY 1, 2, or 3, so you're still in your residency, then you want to have the program submit the CTV so you can pay the reduced initial license fee. Rhonda, is there anything else you can? I think I covered it.
That would be it from the program.
Okay, thanks.
And then another question similar to what forms programs need to fill out. Do they need to submit the dental form as well? Not familiar with a dental form.
Yeah, it's probably the CODA form. So if you're in a CODA program, then yes, the program would need to submit I think it's called the CODA 1, CODA 2. So I'm assuming that's what they're referring to.
All right, great. In regards to physician and surgeon license application, when you are a PTL holder, let's say I submit my application and have no deficiencies, will I get my PNS license right away once it's approved, or will it be issued until the end of my residency training? I think they mean, or will it not be issued until the end of my residency training?
If you meet all of the requirements for licensure, the license will be issued right away. We won't delay it till you complete a residency program.
And then we go back and we actually update the PTL, right, Marina?
We've required months of training. So let's say you're a U.S. or Canadian medical school graduate. I'm sorry, it kind of broke up for a minute. Can you say that again, Sean?
Marina, I think you're cutting out there. Now I see you.
Sorry, I think my connection's going a little in. I apologize. Can you guys hear me?
We can now, yeah.
You can hear me now?
Yeah,
I think there's a delay. Can you hear me? Okay. So I was just saying that if you only need 12 months of training, you can submit your application before that, before you complete 12 months. We won't issue the license until you've shown proof of completion of the 12 months. So let's say, you're in your 11th month of training, and you've submitted your application and you have no other deficiencies, we're going to wait till we get that final PTA PTB that shows completion of 12 months before we can issue the license. So hopefully that answers the question.
Okay, thank you, Maria. I have 3 o'clock, and I know we wanted to set a hard stop for this one to honor everyone's times and the registration that we had set up. We do have fair number of questions left in the Q&A box, and so what I can do is I can export those remaining questions along with the asker, and we have your information from your registration, so we can ask licensing questions to follow up with those individuals. And then also, we're going to take everything that was asked in the question and answer today and incorporate it into the next session. The licensing program we'll be putting together, and we'll be sending out emails to invite people to that one as well. So hopefully the next session will be even more robust and have more information in there. But we will, go ahead and with these written questions, at least we can get responses back. It might take a day or two to get them all answered, but please know we will save these questions off, and I'll provide them to the licensing program to get back to you all. Marina, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you for any closing remarks.
Thank you, Sean, and just thank you everyone for participating. These were all great questions, and I know some of this stuff can be confusing, especially with the law change and us updating our forms. So we'll obviously respond as quickly as we can to your questions that come in to the licensing.questions email address. Please also reach out if you're an applicant. Reach out to your assigned analyst, and like Sean said, we'll follow up soon with another webinar, hopefully address even more questions, and I just appreciate everyone's participation. So thank you, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Marina. I'll be saving off those questions and ending the meeting for all. Everyone have a good afternoon.